the first albums I ever got were on vinyl were Alice Cooper School's Out,
Mm-hmm.
and came with a pair of women's panties wrapped around the record. So I remember when I got it, and of course my dad got it for me. So we opened it up in the kitchen in front of my mom, and I didn't even, it never even dawned on me, these are women's lace white panties. I was just like, cool hat or whatever. I didn't know. And my mom's like, get rid of that. You're not, I go, all right, I don't care. You can throw them in the garbage. Wear them, Mom. Whatever you need to do. I don't care. I just want the music, right?
Right.
So that and Paranoid album by Sabbath. We used to have a thing in the kitchen when Mom was cooking. We had speakers in the ceiling of the kitchen, but the turntable was in the living room. So you go put it on in the living room and you listen in the kitchen. So I'm in there listening to, and I was a kid still starting to learn how to play rock guitar because I was always classical flamenco. So this is my, $60 electric guitar that I got from Service Merchandise, and
I remember that place.
And had probably 5 strings on it, and I'm playing Warpick and learning all this stuff. But I started accumulating tons and tons of vinyl, all kinds of, every Sabbath, Zeppelin, Aerosmith, Pink Floyd, Angel, you name it. I had boxes and boxes of vinyl, and all all the first 5 Lillian records were all on vinyl. So had all this stuff, and then Hurricane Katrina came, and I was keeping it all at my mom's house on the first floor in the closet. And my mom got like 18 inches to 2 feet of water and engulfed all of my vinyl, destroyed boxes of my vinyl. So I, at that point, 2005, nobody was really doing vinyl that much anymore. So it was senseless for me to recollect. So I got a few pieces here and there, and was fortunate that I got some more of the Lillian stuff on vinyl. But I mean, it was an intense collection, man. I'm gonna tell you, it was sickening when I went back and into the house after the flood and started peeling them apart, and the covers were melted together, and the albums were destroyed. So I only have a couple of pieces, and that's it. And
okay, what you got is what you got, and you can do
my
CDs.
segue,
Talk about influences. We're just about music, anyhow.
There you go. Alice Cooper School's
Alice
Out.
Cooper.
The first album that I ever got, I told you about, with the women's panties. I actually was able to get another copy of it. Now, this is what's cool about this album, right? School's Out, right? This is the album cover, if you can see it, is a desk. So it opens up like the old school desks with a picture of Alice and the guys in the front. And on the inside, you take the vinyl out, and it's got like a true false, all the information. I don't know if you can see. Let me see if I can hold it up. You can see it's like,
okay, little notepad.
Ray-Gons in there, a slingshot, some marbles, of course, because every kid has a slingshot in his desk. And then English, room 304, and then School's Out quiz, which is all the facts and stuff about the album itself, who wrote what, etc. And then the back of it looks like it actually has a thing where it folds out into a desk, so you can have a cardboard desk. Yeah, I like that.
That was the days. That's why I love. That was the inspiration for vinyl. It doesn't have to be a hard and fast rule, but the idea is like with vinyl is you touch stuff. You got all these like things. Let me show. So my first one, I had two. My first things I got weren't just records; they were two cassettes. And I've said before, I got 2 cassettes, and I actually got the vinyl of one of them now. Was Van Halen, Diver Down, and on cassette, and because I bought a stereo like in the early '80s, and I got Please Synchronicity. So I got Van Halen, Diver Down.
Nice.
This album, obviously the whole thing, they were doing the instrumentals. There's a lot of fighting in the band at this time.
Some covers on there too.
Yeah, it's like the 81 or 82 California show they did.
Look at that! Look at the crowd out at that show. I mean, those were the man.
Yeah, I mean it's great, and this is like, and then this is what's so good about it. You're not going to see this.
Yeah, you're right.
You on a cassette, the CDs, you're trying to read the words and the little tiny things. I probably wear glasses because of those CDs and lyrics. That's probably the main reason.
Nice.
Yeah, that was their big album with there's something going on. The flag means there's something going on under the water. So that was his thing. There's something going on underneath the covers. The band.
One of the things that I find really just kind of that most people don't realize is so many of these early rock albums, there was 8 or 9 songs on there.
Yeah.
You know, and
33 minutes, 29 minutes.
Exactly. And you start thinking of like, because I had this philosophy that might have been proven wrong to me a little bit, but that it was the more you give them, the happier they would be, right? So our album, Sad Day on Planet Earth, had I said, what is the maximum amount of time you can put on a CD? And it was like 70. I don't know if it's increased, but it was like 77 minutes, 76 something.
It was a space. Yeah.
So at the end of, I think there's 15 or 16 songs on the record. When the last song would have been ending, there was like another 2-3 minutes left. Yeah. And I said, I got to fill it up. I'm going to make a point, right? So I did this weird instrumental thing where I did like 100 plus guitar tracks, but I kept adding them in and doubling them in. And I was trying to create the feeling of like insects growing. So I was like, one would be going, and another one on top of it. And then it would be 4 or 5 of them. And at the end of it, there's like 10 different melodic patterns, all sounding like flies. And then it builds up and it gets loud, and it stops and it reverbs out. And I was like, wow, that's pretty unusual and cool. And people think I'm losing my mind, but what the hell? So I did it. So we filled every second of that CD up. You couldn't put another second on it. And I'd be damned if I didn't have 4 or 5 people say, I really like the CD, but it's too long. I'm like, are you kidding me? I'm sitting here trying to create soundscapes to make you happy.
Hopefully there's 100 people that didn't say anything, because it's usually the ones that like it don't say anything.
Exactly. But I'm the guy that's like, I get 500 great reviews and one bad one, and I harp on that one,
Oh, yeah.
Like,
I did something one time. Like I had 3 or 4 bad reviews criticizing. So I wrote some comedy piece for some online paper. They got like 5,000 hits on the front page a day, at least. So I got put right in the front page. I had 4 comments criticizing me. I'm like, oh, it's the end of the world.
I know. That's it. That's how I
5,000 people read it. 4 people in a comment. I'm like, I'm crushed.
That just shows you care, right?
It is. It's crazy. I think it's a good idea. I think Rob Zombie does it now. He does these short albums now, the old style. As he says, he's making them really short for that reason. I like the fact that people mix it up. Mm-hmm. If you don't have the material for the album, you just have 8 or 9 good songs, then just put them out. There's no crime there. If you're gonna put filler on there because the album's too short, we need to throw it on like an instrumental. We need to do a cover song, which is the argument back to Diver Down. It's a good song. It's got good albums, but Eddie's like, I don't want to put it out unless it's my own stuff, and the record label, they were like, more cover songs,
Right. I'm like that too. I don't ever, and that's one thing I never ever heard anybody say is that it sounds like that's a filler. Never done that, because I've always had such an abundance of material that I wouldn't put it out unless it was what I thought as strong as everything else.
I think all these songs are purposeful. They all are.
Yeah, and they interact with each other too. And I would just never want to. I joke around about the Sad Day thing because it was like a minute and a half, 2 minutes left, and I was like, let me just go make some. But I would never, I could have put me opening a can of sardines on there or something, but I said, let me make it something cool and unusual to fill it up. But you're right. It's a matter of, are you going to put something on there?
But that's different. That's a couple of minutes of crazy. But that's like you said, all the guitar layering. That's something really creative, though. That's not like you're like, I'm just gonna yell for 30 seconds to make it go to the end. No, like literally, you put time into creating some kind of neat sound or some kind. Used it.
It did. So, but I there's something to be. Oh, look at that. That's excellent. Read the tracks on that. Didn't
mean to cut you off. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I actually tried to thought I was going to tie in with what you're saying with the tracks too. That's why I brought this up.
All right.
I don't remember. I lost my thought. Look at all those great pictures, all the hippie haircuts and mustaches and sideburns that were called like face bladders and stuff, and all kinds of. What is it? Something like that. Somebody had the best names for them too. So this album was Highway Star, Maybe I'm Leo, Pictures of Home, Never Before, Smoking Water, Lazy, and Space Trucking.
Oh, that's awesome. 8. That's 7 or 8 songs. How many is it? 8.
It is, and that's what I'm saying right now. There is 7 songs, and that's what the tie-in is. And one side is 19 minutes, the other side is like 17.
Oh, there you go. Wow.
But I
It's
mean,
all.
this is everything. This is like the studio. It's got the fire. So we all know the song
Oh,
"Smoke on the Water."
right.
When they talk about they went to the rehearsal hall, and whoever has a note,
Mm.
you may know who's watching, know it. They went to the rehearsal room to record this album. Across the water was Montrose. Montrose was a studio. Frank Zappa was playing, and the studio right before they got to it and had their gear in there caught on fire and burned down.
Yep. Yep.
And that's where Frank Zappa and the Mothers and the Smoke on the Water came from. I think generationally we grew up with that, but I think there's going to be a point now where we need to start spreading that on like stories to the young on the fireplace. You know what I mean? Because
Well,
they're not going to know.
we realized we could just fill them all with a whole bunch of bad information and say that was a marshmallow roast that they had one time.
I think it's probably down on Wikipedia. There's
Yeah,
enough
right.
bad information out there.
Might be, huh? You never know who's telling you the truth anymore.
Good one. Let me see. All
What
right,
you got?
let's mix it up. Bam.
All right. Okay.
Frank Zappa.
There you go.
I can mix them up. So this album, where I'm familiar with it, is Shake Your Booty.
All right.
Shake Your Booty, rather. Like most Frank Zappa stuff, all of his called from being live on the tour, but it had some of his bigger, obviously you have, all your big hits on here from him. Actually, I don't even written down. That's, it's like Bobby Brown, which is band. He had a song on here called "Dancing Fool,"
Right.
making fun of disco. It became a disco hit.
Of course.
Bobby Brown, of course, we know if we can't talk about it because it's such a controversial song. Baby Snake.
No, you got to fill me in. I'm not very knowledgeable on the Zappa stuff. I got it. I'll be, since we're being honest, I know the guy was brilliant musician and he was very creative and out there, but I never latched on to just like wanting to listen to stuff, because if I listened to it, it was like, okay, I get it. And yeah, he's really good and he's smart and he's brilliant. But sometimes I felt like he was trying to like make fun of everybody and kind of feel like I'm smarter than all of you morons out there and stuff. So let me make a piece of music here that,
I think he was.
I don't know why I didn't get it.
No, well, I didn't listen to I heard Dweezil Zappa first. I told this when I talked to Dweezil. I said, actually, Dweezil, I get into Zappa through Dweezil with Guitar Watch Clean Mama. Dweezil was doing a lot of stuff in the 80s with a lot of musicians.
Right.
And then by default, when I got older, because I thought someone said, "Oh, what about Zappa?" When I was a kid, I'm like, "Isn't that jazz stuff?" That's what I said. Isn't that jazz music?
Right.
Like, no. So I was like, I don't know, so a lot older, and I started listening to him, breaking it down like separately, and it's really good. I think he's so talented. He can do everything. He can compose. He does everything in his head. Like just the miracle of songwriting. And then you could go make a look. He was just, I don't know. I think like the starting point for all of his stuff, like sarcasm and stuff. It's just him. I think it was just kind of poured out of him. Right. I don't think he looked at himself as being anything better. Right. It was just a starting point for creativity and how he hated the fakeness of stuff. And he's very sarcastic, especially in the 80s and 90s and Reaganomics and and all that stuff. Right. It was part of all of his material, And he's got older
one thing is
like jazz and stuff.
If I am not knowledgeable about something, I like realize, shut up, you don't have anything to say if you don't know anything about it. So that's why I'm saying I don't know that much about. I just know that I know he was brilliant. And he was very well respected. I do have a Dweezil Zappa story for you, though. That when we were doing our first album and we did the song Dream of a Lifetime, which is a drop D tune, Robin Crosby was producing the album, was friends with Dweezil, and Dweezil lent me his guitar to play that song because his guitar, and I'm trying to figure out exactly how to say it, had 2 additional frets supposedly added onto it. So I was playing in drop D tune, but everything, it was like an elongated neck or something. I don't exactly, all I know is it sounded really good and it came from Dweezil. So instead of detuning my guitar and turning the E down, I played it in just like I would play a regular E chord instead of the D, and it wasn't drop D. So I was playing it right, but the way the guitar was set up, there were no potential intonation problems, and it was just, I think it was a Kramer, as a matter of fact, or Charvel or something like that. But I think it was red and white, like a Eddie Van Halen stripe kind of looking thing to it. And I used that on that track. And it was from Dweezil Zappa. He was kind enough to lend it to me. So I never did get to meet him, though. guitar. So now he's a
Right,
very
so
good
the time.
player, too. Weasel's a great player also.
I don't know. He
All
mix it
right,
up a little bit.
get really weird. We're gonna
All
start
right.
going to left field. The chilling, thrilling sounds
Ooh.
of haunted house. 20 tracks, including The Haunted House, The Long Fuse, Dogs, Timber, Your Pet Cat, Shipwreck, The Unsafe Bridge, Chinese Water Torture, all the way down to Things in Space, Birds, Cat Fight, Collection of Creeks. When
It
I was
almost
a
looks
little
like
bitty kid, they
yeah.
had a haunted house. They had a park called Pontchartrain Beach. It was an amusement park, right? They had a haunted house there. And I remember when I was a little bitty kid, we'd go there and I would not ever go into that haunted house. It was way too scary for me, right? And then this album, they'd always have these songs coming out of the haunted house. And later on, I found out that it came from this record. My dad bought this record for me when I was probably 10 or 11 years old. And we lost it and recently found it again somewhere. Somebody got it for me. It's on Disneyland Records from 1964. Okay.
Wow.
This here. So it's got all the scary haunted house sounds on there. Now, who would have thought I was scared of haunted houses at that age and that'd be ghost hunting now years later.
And it's kind of ironic you have that too. That album cover nowadays looks like it should have Rob Zombie and John Five like leaning against the trail.
Exactly.
Like because they do this exactly the style they do now.
That old style campy.
That's great.
Yeah,
especially good that you found it from your childhood. That's what I'm saying. That's always a connection to something. That's awesome.
I know.
Let's go.
Oh,
Steve Vai, Flexible. Steve Vai's first album. Now, odd. It's not as it's more instrumental. You know the album, right?
Right.
You know the Attitude song. Dun 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 dun. That was a big song. The whole album's really good. It's just very different. He had just either was leaving Zappa or left Zappa. He built like a little recording studio in his garden shed in his back in his first house.
Right.
And I think he borrowed a bunch of Zappa's gear, so the album has a lot of Zappa feel to it. A bunch of transition album for him. Right. That would probably be a good album for you to start listening to get you into Zappa. That and then maybe a guitar album by Zappa.
Right.
That might be the first thing to
no, man,
really check it out.
I guess the thing with me is I've always there's so many great players and talents out there and stuff like that. And I'll listen to them and get into it and just really, really appreciate the playing and stuff like that. But the things that have always been what I have wanted to listen to and have really gotten to me has been the songs, and I think that's one reason why, like, the things that would attract me to wanting to listen to something in the moments when I was wanting to listen to music would be the songs themselves, and the actual individual playing would be secondary to me. Now, not that I would appreciate it any less, because I listen to stuff and go, my God, listen to that bass player, listen to that pianist, listen to that guitar player, and just totally appreciate the different elements of every song. As a matter of fact, I was teaching my son the other day, we listened to classical music in the car, and I said, hey, do you know what that is? What kind of music? And he goes, yeah, it's classical, Dad. He's 11. And I go, do you hear all the instruments in there? He goes, yeah, Dad, there's the cello and there's the violin. I was like, where are you learning that? He said, we have a music class at school. I said, great. Listen to the individual pieces by themselves. They're unique, but they're nothing unless they're in conjunction with the other pieces in harmony and working together to create the piece. The piece is what I enjoy. So as much as there's so many great players out there and so many good players, I was always listening for the songs at the end of the day, as opposed to just this great drummer or this great this and that. So a lot of stuff like the Zappa stuff and all, eluded me just because I was listening for songs,
I had the same thing earlier. I think because that's especially during a rock phase, big rock, because when I'm listening to something, I want to listen to a rock song. I want to listen to that. I wanted to, when you mow the yard, there's certain songs like when you're doing yard work, or you're like now as you're older, when you're going for a drive, there's certain music only fits in certain things for me.
Well, if you could take like Seals and Crofts song and then put a Steve Vai solo in it, now you got the whole thing.
Seals and Crofts, that's kind of fun. You can do that. You put Seals and Crofts, and that's always good when you're warming up and you got your guitar, or you got an acoustic guitar and you're starting to tune up. That's when you play Seals and Crofts when you're tuning up. and you're trying to
Yeah.
remember some chords. You're like, how does that song go again? And you're like
All right.
picking it out. And you're like, oh yeah, I know it now. And then you start
Here
playing
you
something
go.
else. That's how it
Name
goes.
name Seals and Crofts song other than Diamond Girl.
I couldn't.
Uh-huh.
I
Remember
couldn't.
Diamond Girl?
I do. What was the other song they had? It was the
We may never
da-da-da-da.
this way again. We may never. Remember that?
Yeah. See there, that's like it's like Supertramp. It's like Supertramp. I
Exactly.
cannot. They call it out. That's yacht rock nowadays. But yeah,
But
I
if
don't
you
know.
hear it, Yacht Rock. There you go. That's a good station, man. Except
They're
Michael
calling it yacht
McDonald's
rock.
on it all the time,
Yeah,
right?
I like Michael McDonald's voice. He's got a crazy high
Yeah,
voice.
it's good.
Yeah,
It's good like that.
I would like
Yeah.
to think he talks like that too.
Hey, you doing there,
Yeah.
Sean? What's up?
Yeah,
Either that or he's like, yeah, Sean, what's up?
I
Bro? How you doing?
actually think he has a really deep voice. His natural voice.
He
I think
probably
is,
does, right? And then when he
He's the
sings,
man.
it just goes real high, right?
He's the man they brought in to save the Doobie Brothers, arguably. Depends on who
Yeah, right, exactly.
he did. Templeman brought him in.
Did he really? Templeman did? Wow.
Well, what happened was there's problems. I read the Templeman's book, and the Doobies had their own stuff going on first with their other players. I
Right.
can't remember everybody's names. And I think things started to change around a little bit, and Michael came in, and I think they brought him in to start doing some co-writing. And Michael at that point was like living in a kind of garage, in a car garage, like with nothing. And then he brought
Right.
him to like do one little two things here, one here. That also fit really good. Then slowly he came in to the point where he was, and then like the other guitar, some people weren't liking it or his health issues or whatever the issues were, and they were out and not in. And he just eventually became pretty much the big sound of what the Doobie Brothers became, really.
Okay, so name some Michael McDonald Doobie Brothers song other than Minute by Minute. When that
I'm
one
gonna be
is?
honest with you, I could not tell you. I do not know the song titles that he wrote. Like you know what I mean?
See, I can't either, but I know they're out there.
Oh yeah.
Like I know Doobie Brothers is like, what is
Black Water,
it? Long Train Running.
Yeah.
Yeah.
China Grove, whatever, right?
Which one?
Is it China Grove or something? Is it
China Grove.
China
There
Grove?
you go.
Yep. Whoa,
With that
yeah.
old black water.
Yeah, Old Black Water. Yep. Yeah, this is something that a minute ago. Yep. But I don't know
That's
which
the
ones
thing.
he
I
sang.
know all the songs when I hear them, but I don't remember the names.
So like when I watched Mad Men a couple years ago, like all of us did, and so I was on YouTube, just got a Mad Men song list, and I'm like, oh, I was doing something, I put it on, I start listening to it. I'm like, I see like the big list. I'm like, I don't know any of these songs. I started listening to it. I knew like 50 songs from the 60s.
Right, exactly.
I'm like,
right.
I know every song, and I didn't know the name of it, and I couldn't tell you again now. But like, yeah, I really to deep dive. It's more in the rock vein for me to be able to really give you some ridiculous, stupid song credits.
Here we go, man. We're staying on the same topic. Blood-curdling terror, horror, sounds.
This totally ties in.
You shiver, bro.
That's a good cover too.
From the year, it's got Night in a Haunted House. The whole side one is Night in a Haunted House. Then you got Witch Laugh, Count Dracula and his victim, Screams and Groans, Moans and Groans, Cats, Dogs, Phantom Piano, Creaking Door. I'm trying to find the year in this because it's old. And wow.
Is it just sounds, or is there like a mixture with songs too?
I don't know. I've never listened to it because I got all this stuff like after I haven't had a turntable in years.
You gotta incorporate it. You gotta incorporate it into your music.
I'm telling you, man, I could have a scary band too, man. It does look. This is crazy because it doesn't have a timestamp, a date stamp on it anywhere.
It might be in the record in the spinning part that you can't see. Oh, that's a cool back cover.
It smells. I'm looking at the back cover right here, and it's
that's a cool looking cover.
Yeah, and that's the back of it right there.
I like that.
But it doesn't say, even on the actual vinyl itself, which is very scratched up, it doesn't even have, let me see, Pickwick International Stereo. Wow. Nope, nothing on here to tell me the dates. Anyway, it's old as hell. That's all I know.
I like how I had to always push it with stereo because you want to confuse all those mono ones out there at the time, right? That was a big push.
Yeah, stereophonic. There you go.
So I'm gonna say, well, this one is a newer one.
Oh, okay.
I think this was that was the newest one I had.
What's the name of that one?
This one is called the Hardwired one.
Oh, okay. That's their most recent studio.
It's the most recent one. They did like a bunch of videos for it. The sound is really probably closest to what they used to do.
Right.
I like other albums too. I like when an artist does different stuff. I just had to put that in as an honorable mention.
There you go.
But here's what I was going to talk about. Bam, Abbey Road.
Wow, look at that. That's awesome.
Probably original back in the day. Yeah.
Nice.
I mean, Come Together, you know, George Harrison's Something. Maxwell Silverhammer, you remember that song, the lyrics to it?
Yep. Yep.
What a
Sure.
violent song if you really think about it, like
Mhm.
banging down her head. But I mean, oh darling, I mean, I want you. She's so heavy, you know that?
Okay. Oh, that's a great song. I used to cover that
So
long.
heavy.
All right. Here's my story on the my question to you on the Beatles. I was talking to my wife in the car yesterday because the Beatles song came up.
Yeah.
Did the Beatles ever tour? Did they ever go out on the road? I know that you see, like, think about it. All you really ever hear from the Beatles is like a couple of those big shows, Hollywood Bowl,
Yeah.
and those big shows when they first came over, and they were on Ed Sullivan show.
No, that was
But
I think that was it because they couldn't play. They played Shea Stadium, and their
yeah,
amps weren't loud enough, and the crowd was so loud and erratic that they couldn't even hear themselves.
okay. But later on in their careers, they were doing music throughout the '60s. There were other bands, Sabbath and Hendrix, and they were doing all these festivals, and they never seemed that they ever went out and did gigs. And I
They
was
did a
like,
bunch when I started out. They did like in Hamburg, Germany. They were playing like like 8 hours or five sets a night for like months on end. They
right. But when
totally
they got
they played
popular,
live
started
until they
doing
made once they got big, they
they
just
were just
retired from touring
studio bands. Well,
and
I mean, they
videos
never
and
toured
videos.
for Abbey Road or
No,
any of the, you know, they put out those best of records, right? The
Mhm.
anthologies, the red one for the early stuff, and then the blue one for the
Right.
latest. And you start listening, I go, my God, so many songs. But did they ever go out and support any of the later records? Did they ever play "I Am the Walrus" live or "Strawberry Fields" or
All
any
the
of that
guys
stuff?
have played solo and have played together, like you know what I mean. But
Yeah, they never really
collectively, I
went
don't think
out
there's
and
really
hit
no really
roads
big
like
band.
Beatles 1969, you know,
You know,
U.S.
it's
tour.
all their younger years when they played the first, like just like two versions, really just like the first like the 50s bebop ones, and
Right,
that's when they're playing out a lot and they're doing clubs and all, I want your hand and feel your
right,
hand, and that's when they're doing like the clubs and stuff. So that was kind of the time period.
right.
And then they started going up. They came to America, got too crazy. They pulled back. They didn't have to do it. They started doing like the movies, Help, and this and that.
Right.
Kind of changed. Then they started doing the videos and growing their hair out and experimenting and you know Yellow Submarine and
It
cartoon
wasn't really
movies and
about going out and playing live. It really wasn't. It was about just creating songs. It's kind of weird because you think
songwriting and
like
no,
now, what if they were out now and they were going to go out like Pink Floyd goes out with this immense stuff and they've got all this weird music, but they have the ability to go out and
yeah.
hire great backup musicians. What if the Beatles were able to go out if they were all still alive and go out and do, you know, all the crazy psychedelic stuff with orchestra and all that in big production? It'd be
Yeah.
amazing. But we'll never
They
get to see. We'll never
no,
get to hear
they
it.
didn't. They the other thing is they only lasted for like I want to say I think the most prolific period of that I like with all those really good albums was only like within like a 4 or 5 years.
Yeah,
All those
it was
crazy
it was
albums.
a
They were literally in the
actually
studio just writing and producing and doing movies. Like
yeah,
you mentioned, do that. That was like the bulk of everything that we've all now rely on for their
yeah.
music.
How many albums did they do? Studio records? You know, off the top of your head?
I think that was the 10th one. Um, Abbey Road. I have a note here. Oh, this was their 11th, and
Okay.
then they had one more after this one. By that time, it was released like a month after they broke up. It was
So they
the
were
Let It Be.
doing.
They did the Let It Be album where they did like live on the roof. That was Let It Be. They
Oh,
had
okay.
broken up by that point.
So I mean, they were putting out an album a year at least, right?
At least sometimes more.
Sometimes, isn't that
With like full
crazy?
productions, they were a
Yeah,
monster. They didn't have time to tour.
that would be pretty cool to always be in the studio creating, but to have that ability to go out and play live, though, I wonder why they never
I think they
wanted to.
played it so much and it was so loud, and the crowds were so crazy. I mean, Paul plays Beatles songs ever since he was in Wings, and Paul McCartney's from the
Right.
70s. Ringo plays his all-star band, and George played,
Yeah.
and
It would
John
be
played.
great. Could you imagine if they would have actually, if we had some like videos of them playing and touring and doing shows later on in their career,
It almost
which
happened.
is my favorite. That's my preferred
Yep.
period of the Beatles is the later stuff. So
Me too. I mean, it almost
that's a
happened too.
good one. All right, here we go. Last creepy record, right?
Yeah.
Peter Laurie.
Ooh,
Peter
there's
Laurie,
a creepy.
remember him?
That is a
Peter
creepy.
Laurie, master of mystery and suspense, original radio broadcast from 19. This was from 78. Peter Laurie was. This is him. arriving in Berlin in the 20s, he established himself on the German stage. He left Berlin with the rise of Nazism. Now, you know who Peter Laurie was? He was an actor in all the horror movies, right?
Yeah.
He was the one that talked like this, Peter Laurie. All right. So side one of this is him completely doing the whole radio version of The Black Cat, which the great, I think Vincent Price was in that movie. And then side two, the Queen of Spades, the complete show, exactly as heard, from Nostalgia Lane Records. Peter Laurie, look at that cover, man. Look at that black cat.
That is awesome. You need to get a record player for Halloween to play these.
I'm telling you, man. It looks like, I thought that was a yo-yo, but it's not. It's actually a red circle.
There's nothing scarier than a cat playing it with a yo-yo.
And a noose hanging down behind the cat's head. Look at that cat, man. He's
not happy. Looks like a person.
Looks like my cat. Anyway, Peter Laurie. You know, we go from Alice Cooper to Peter Laurie.
That's good, man. How we doing for time? How you doing for time?
Oh, we got a little time, man. We good.
Okay.
You know what? Unfortunately, the only other things I have left are on vinyl. Lillian Axe records.
Nice. You got any stories with them?
I can remember the day I played when I got my first actual copy and put it on there, and I thought that the heavens were going to open up. The only real story on this is if you look at the cover, a guy named Hugh Syme did the cover. If you look at our first album cover, you look at Whitesnake's, I think it was Slip of the Tongue, and the Kingdom Come album cover, they're all very similar. It was the same guy did those. I think he went through a phase where he did these like.
You hold them again?
Yeah, the cover is it's like, I don't know if it's shining or whatever, but it's like,
I don't know if you wrote the letter "slippery when wet" in a plastic bag, it might also been
yeah, right.
The Black Album with the finger writing on the print.
You see the purple kind of like it looks like the surface of the moon actually, but purple, and the logo. And Hugh did some Rush album covers. He's very well known. He's done a lot more covers than I'm even remembering right now. But I knew at the time he did Whitesnake and Kingdom Come and Rush. And he did that album cover. But yeah, that's our first record. So, you know.
What about the second one? What's the idea for the other cover? That's actually a good question for you. What did you come up with?
Fourth album, Poetic Justice, where you can see the picture of the band, and Lillian, the old lady holding an axe. Now, the back of the cover is a drowning judge, and Lillian standing on the edge of the pool. He has chains on his feet. His gavel is falling out of his hand, and he has Poetic Justice tied around his neck. And he's drowning in a swimming pool. They went and did this photo shoot. Originally, that was going to be the cover, and it was going to be a drowning judge. But when these photographers were underwater, they weren't able to capture the image quite how they wanted. So they decided, well, let's put that on the back. So this lady on here, we picked her from a bunch of different elderly models and who we thought fit the vision of Lily. And it was kind of obviously it was tongue in cheek, a little bit of humor.
Yeah, it's funny.
She's guarding her band. And when we did the video for No Matter What, there was another lady who looked similar to her that played the old lady chasing girls out of the house while we rehearsed.
I thought that was the same person.
The Beatles, with the fast motion stuff. Back in those times, it was unfortunately for some of this stuff, maybe fortunately, they told us basically what it was going to be. And we want your input on everything, but this is how it's going to be. If you like it or not, do you like it? Yeah. Okay, good. Well, there's your input. You liked it, So, it wound up, this was probably the album that was our best-selling album. I remember one of the cool stories about. Yeah, Poetic Justice was. Yeah,
that was bigger than Love and War.
Yeah, sales-wise, yeah, we were SoundScan. I remember the first week of SoundScan was like 80,000 units first week, so it was crazy. You remember Columbia House where you paid like a penny and got a whole bunch of free things? Well,
I think I still owe them.
I know. I think we all do. But every month they came out with a different. You got that little booklet with everything in there, and you picked it out.
Yeah.
Well, we were the featured artist the month that Poetic Justice came out. So we were on the cover that I still have a
Uh-huh.
copy where we were the featured artist for Columbia House. So I know a lot of copies of the album went out to people for a penny, you know, and that's part of your contract. You got X amount of albums that are going to be, you know, or I guess I don't know what they call them, but they're
Like a loss leader.
pretty much, yeah. It's just like, you know, you're not going to get paid on these because people are paying a penny. Columbia House has X amount. Plus, when you're the featured thing right there, you know, that's what people are. Yeah, let's try it out. It's a penny. You know, I get 30 albums for a penny.
I think it was the Napster clause before there was Napster.
Yeah, exactly right.
You could get, or Spotify, you get a penny for it, your music,
Yeah.
for all your
But it
songs.
was, you know, it was a good push. So, you know, but that was it. Yeah, that's the vinyl. That's all the damn vinyl I have. It's
That's all right.
sad.
I have a couple here, and just talk about music. You can rant off these. I got like 3 or 4 left. Couple.
Yeah,
Who
absolutely.
came up with the cover of the Love and War? And who's that lady?
That
That
lady's
model
name is
is.
Sharon Case. She was in General Hospital years ago, and I actually never met her, but years later, when we took a break and I had my project Near Life Experience, we were recording an album in New Orleans, and the owner of the studio goes, "Oh yeah, that's Sharon Case on your Love and War record. Yeah, she just broke up with my friend. She was dating a friend of mine down here in New Orleans. She's nuts, man. That she was crazy or whatever. Evidently, that's what he said. Now, of course, there's two sides every story,
Right.
but evidently, she was living down here and dating a friend of his, and I don't know anything that ever happened to her, to be honest with you, her career. I think I
oh
looked
yeah,
it up
that was my
once.
ex-wife, or or
Yeah,
someone
right,
like, I'm
exactly.
sorry, that was the manager so and
Well,
so,
you know,
or
that's one of those questions, you know, the age-old question. Was that your girlfriend? Did you go out with her? Did you do
I
that?
know, right? No, I was
Never even
actually
met her.
I never really thought about that until we were just talking about album covers
Right,
and the
right.
process, and you're saying how they put it out there. So on
Yeah,
a serious note, I was thinking like you'd be like, oh no, this guy producer put her in there, or you know what I'm saying? Like
yeah. All right.
you
Or
had
one of my
you guys
girlfriends.
weren't in it.
Actually, this was my girlfriend at the time, right here.
She took care of you though. She probably could make
Yeah,
you a
she
good
was good.
sandwich too, though,
Yeah,
right? It kept you
cut
fed.
people up. Yeah, right. She cut a
Take
sandwich in
what you
half.
really need on the road. You need to someone's got to take care of you when you're eating. All right, classic. Might be
There you go.
overrated on some levels, but 30 million albums when it first came out. Remember when it first came out? Well, actually, and I've talked to a bunch of bands lately too on the show. These guys couldn't get couldn't get arrested when
Right,
this album
right.
first came out. It was and other bands were getting signed. Just it wasn't really because of Guns N' Roses. It was just the time. So by the time Guns N' Roses
Yep.
broke, a lot of those bands were signed. It felt like it was a big pull,
Yeah.
and not just the bands getting themselves signed. But it took a couple pushes for the album to get out. I think Welcome to the Jungle had to be re-released, I think, didn't it? Or something. It was
Yeah,
like
it wasn't, you know, like a lot. And isn't that kind of crazy too? It just goes to show you, because of the fact that they had a label that was willing to do that. What if they just shelved them? Right? Think about that. How many bands? There you go.
yeah.
MCA Records. Thank you. How many bands, if it doesn't click right away, get shelved? You know?
And the
And
problems with these guys that they had too, like imagine so they had Paul Stanley came in. Paul Stanley was going to produce the album, right? But
really, I didn't know that.
he wanted to change up the drums on Steven Adler's drums too much. Steven Adler was like, nope.
Really?
So he was out. Mutt Lange, the band wanted Mutt Lange to do it.
Right.
Record label said cost too much money.
Right.
Mike Klink came in. I know he had stories like he was like, I was married before that started. He got so involved with them. He got divorced. His life changed totally. I don't know how true everything is, but I remember reading that. The album was only made for like $370,000, which is a lot for it's like a house.
Right.
But if you think, any of the new albums that take 12 years now,
right,
it's a drop in the bucket considering these are 30 million of them, like one of the biggest albums.
I know, but
there.
isn't it? It's funny how quickly could have gone. I remember the way I found out
Yeah.
about them was Robin Crosby had actually mentioned it to me. He goes, "Yeah, there's this band out here. It's the album's really good, and I think they're going to do real well." And called Guns N' Roses. I said I never heard of them before. Then you started hearing a little bit about them here and there and stuff. But that that's the case, and if you're fortunate enough to have a label that believes in it strong enough,
it's the media too, because I heard about him before I saw him. Actually,
right.
I saw it. I had an article. I remember getting like in one of the magazines, how they're like this badass band from LA, and had a picture of them and how they're like the newest thing. And I remember having the picture put aside or whatever, and I heard like one song. I was like, "Oh, these are great in my locker or whatever." You know,
Right.
when I was like a teenager, and it was even before the album broke. I don't know if it's like an EP or something, and it was just crazy. And then
Yeah. All right, here's one for you. A little trivia
yeah,
on the
yeah,
side note. What other bands has another band in particular, Paul Stanley produced the debut album on?
that's hard because I know Gene Simmons always was producing. That's why I was always surprised to hear Paul was doing this one.
I'll give you a hint. Their single was "Don't Ever Want to Lose You."
It's one of the
New
songs I
England.
have a hard time with.
Yep. New England.
The who?
New England. Okay, you got to do yourself a favor. New England put 3 albums out. The first album, and then the second
Ironically,
was
I live in New England too. Just to point that out.
Explore Suite, right? Explore Suite. Third, and then I can't remember the name of the third album. Paul Stanley produced it. They had a single called "Don't Ever Want to Lose You." It's one of those songs that if you hear it, you would like them. They actually opened up for Kiss on their first tour, and I saw them, and they opened up for Kansas on another tour, and their songs are great. The first album,
I've never heard of them.
Yeah, you got.
I've heard about a lot of crazy.
Go look.
I'll look
go
them
check.
up.
Yep, Paul Stanley produced the first album. Is one of those. My first year of college was the album of that year. I listened to that every single
I don't know
day.
how I missed that one. It's just crazy.
New England. Go
Paul
ahead.
Stanley trivia.
Now, the keyboard player, and maybe the bass player went on to play in Alcatraz with that first Alcatraz album with Yngwie on it and Graham Bonnet singing. That has its song Hiroshima, Mon Amour on it. I think Gary Waldo, I think, was one of the guys. The keyboard player or the bass player from New England went to Alcatraz. New England did 3 albums. I guess it didn't click. I don't know what happened, but listen to their first album. The songs are phenomenal. Really good.
I will.
Paul Stanley produced that. Yep.
So I'm gonna throw in one last piece of Paul Stanley. Google Stanley coffee commercial. I think it's voted.
What?
Paul Stanley coffee commercial on YouTube.
Are you serious?
Look it up. Yeah, it's like a circus, and he's singing with his Paul Stanley voice. The best thing about waking up, you see it. It's pretty good.
Did you hear you said
I just heard something? Yeah.
Are you serious? And Siri said you activated my Apple Watch.
I turn off my stuff. They're gonna come get us.
Weird. All right, Paul Stanley sing the Folger coffee commercial.
Yeah, you gotta go. So, not allowed to say this one. I actually Speaking of Robin Crosby.
Nice.
I actually have a piece of video I'm actually going to throw in between this piece because I just did talk to Stephen Pearcy the other night.
Oh, okay, cool.
And I told him we were doing this, and I pulled this up. I said, "Oh, this is me, you, and I are doing this." He goes, "Oh, put it back up." He goes, "I got a story for you." So he kind of talked with the recording of it and the process, and had like a little 4-track and stuff. He kind of got into a little bit about.
Right.
It's a good album,
It's a great.
Robin and when everyone was at a peak, it was just so good. The sound really brought the level from the first one. The first one was good, but it's like it's nice to see a band keep growing on it.
Yeah. Yep.
He said, in the studio, Bo was just kicking their butts in a good way, just really making them work.
Yeah.
Really good. I mean, and that was you look back, you see Robin. Robin was looking so good back then. It was
I know.
Sad decline for him.
Heck, a lot of stories with Robin. Spent a lot of time with him. But I tell you what, we were. That's kind of how we got signed. Is we were Lillian was doing really well as an unsigned original act. We were doing playing 3-4 nights a week. We go to all through Louisiana and Texas and Mississippi. And I'm not kidding you. Times were different. We'd be playing in Lafayette, Louisiana on a Wednesday night with 500 people. Everywhere we're going, we were just making and we were doing our own stuff. But it doesn't matter. It's still hard. So we got a phone call. I can remember where we were. We got a phone call from an agent. Our agent said, "Look, Brat and Queensryche are coming through, and they want to put you guys on 5 shows to help ticket sale." So that's when we did. And after the first 2 shows, the security guy came up and go, "Hey, I need to get your phone number. Marshall Burrow wants to talk to you." I gave him my number, and I knew what it was about. I just knew. And I got a phone call a couple of days later, and it was Marshall. Yeah, Marshall Burrow here, Steve. Look, man, I've been talking to Robin, and he really likes you guys. Do you want a record deal? And, at the time, Rat, Marshall Burrow and Doc McGee were the two big managers. I'm like, yes, sir, I do. I would like a record deal. Thank you. So that was the beginning of that. Because Robin really likes the band and he wants to produce your first record. And I said, absolutely, that'd be fantastic. What do we need to do here? And that began that. But that was our.
I never knew that.
Those 4 of them with Queensryche, and 1 of them was Poison was the opener. And I knew that we had got some attention because Poison, it was just starting to hit, right? Their first album. Yeah. And they made Poison strike the drums so we could put our drums up. I said, we got it made, guys. In an arena, striking drums, man, but I was on Dancing on the Cover tour. So that was after that record. And man, they were, I love the Rat albums, man. It's a shame there was so much internal combustion. We've done shows with Piercy, lots of shows with Rat in the past, and they were always one of my favorites. It's kind of disappointing when you just see how you want these guys to all just stay together and just keep it going for us.
I did last one here.
All right, great.
High and Dry.
Yep.
The look, Joe Elliott's hair now, and
nice.
everyone has
they all got the same hair. Look at them, man.
They all got the same perm, like probably like the perm kit before the show. I don't know.
Look at Pete. Great. What is it? Pete Willis, the little guy. Yep. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Pete. So, yeah. Pete Willis up here. Kind of.
Yeah.
Kind of looks like Eric Martin a little bit. What happened to him is they fired him because he was an alcoholic. So bad.
17-year-old alcoholic. That's pretty bad.
That was his last album with him, and then they had Phil come in after that. And
I was working in a record store when that album came out, and so we had a turntable behind there and speakers in the store. I swear I played that, and I was in my second year of college. I was working at
Me and My Wine, right?
Won the records. What's that?
Me and My Wine, and then he gets fired. Exactly. Their big song on there. Big. He was just irresponsible.
2 or 3 times in a row every day at working at that record store, man. I mean, I burned that thing. I know every nuance of that record. So
it's great. The fact they had they had an instrumental in there. They had Switch
925.
Yeah, 925 is the number before that. High and Dry. It really just has so many different layers to it. I think Breaking on the Heartbreak was a really good ballad. That kind of had that weird, almost had that weird European kind of mystical background sound to it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, that's a great album. But my favorite is still the first album. That On Through the Night.
Really?
That's my favorite one, yeah.
With Hello America and
It Doesn't Matter.
Doesn't matter. That's a good one. Answer to the Master.
Answer to the Master. That's great. I love that song.
I think the only problem I have with that is I think the vocals have too much reverb on it.
Probably so.
I'll be honest, and I just said this the other day too. I said I think what the biggest crime, and I even said this about John Lennon, and we're talking, and even I guess even the producer of John Lennon said this because I was talking to somebody did some work. I like John Lennon's voice, but I don't think John Lennon, as he admittedly publicly said, he was never a big fan of his own voice, which is crazy. Right. And so when he did the solo stuff, like I said, when they did Abbey Road, George Martin came back and said, if you guys do it my way, I'll record with you guys again, because he was like the writer of the band, kept them together. So he had a good sound. So John Lennon had so much reverb on himself. If you listen to the other stuff, listen to all the other songs. He's a
so you think he was mad because he didn't like his own voice, so he was trying to.
That's what I had heard like there, and one of the producers, I don't remember which one it was, that actually worked and recorded him. I'd heard had the same issue. They liked him more with the dry voice. Mm-hmm. I would love to hear all the Lennon albums with a dry, off all the voice. And that ruins me for a lot of bands. There's a lot of bands that came in the 80s at first. It took me a couple times to listen to it because I hate too much reverb on the vocals.
Right.
It'd be crazy.
I know. For me, vocals are the most important part of any song. I tell everybody's like, they ask me, when do you write the vocals? I write them at the same time as the music. I don't write riffs and then come back and throw a vocal over the top. Mm-hmm. I've done that when people have given me. There's a guy right now that I'm not even playing guitar on his record. I'm just doing the lead vocals, and it's a record that's coming out later on in the summer. And I'm just doing, but he'll send me completed songs, and then I'll write the lyrics and the melodies over it. But when I'm doing Lillian some of my own stuff, I hear it all at the same time, because it's, to me, the most important part of the song is the vocal. It's,
But you gotta
you
be
know,
natural. It's gotta be warm. It's gotta fill the room. It's gotta feel
gotta,
like a
yeah,
70s vinyl album. It's
TNT.
gotta,
Yep,
you gotta hear the emotion in it. To me,
yep,
and I think that's what I'm like. And the biggest crime was John Lennon had a beautiful voice.
yep,
And when you heard it, in fact, you had heard it clean. You weren't like, well, we don't know what it sounds like because there's never any reverb on it. Maybe he
right,
was a good songwriter. No, you heard like 12 Beatles albums of clean
yep,
voice, and it
yep,
was brilliant.
yep,
You know, imagine
yep.
some of his bigger hits, just like pull back on the reverb.
So, what's
But
your favorite Beatles song all time?
it changes every day.
Yeah,
Sometimes I'll go something with George Harrison's writing on it. Some days it'll be Octopus Garden just because it's so crazy and so cute but
right.
smart. You know, and sometimes it'll be like Live and Let
Yeah,
Die. You know, it goes across. Like I literally have a hard time with it. It would make me
David. Right.
crazy. What about you?
I like Hey Jude. That's my son's name,
Yep.
and so when I listen to the song now, it's different to me. Just, but that's a great song. Hit that and Let It Be. Um, I like She's So Heavy too. Um,
Motley Crue put that in their album and then Feel Good. Remember in the
what? I didn't
breakdown?
know they did that.
Yeah. Let's go back and listen to Doctor Feel Good. And
They did a cover of that song on it.
it was like it's actually in the song. Dun, dun, dun. It's like halfway through the album. I want you so heavy. It literally
Yeah.
breaks into it almost like they admitted it wasn't like it was rip off or anything. Nikki said, you know, it's in there.
What song?
Off the top of my head, I'll have to go quick Google.
Oh, it's in the middle of a Motley Crue song that they broke
On
that.
Dr. Feelgood. Yeah, if you listen to Dr. Feelgood, it's a break between. It's like I like Rattlesnake Shake and then something else. I want you, don't want you. It's so good. Actually, it fits perfect in there too. And you know, Bob Rock was like, yeah, you know,
I don't know. Why have I never heard that before?
I don't know because we listened. But back then, I mean, I want to say uh, somewhere around either Sticky Sweet or She Goes Down or Slice of Your Pie. I think it's around Slice of Your Pie.
Okay, that's right. There's some songs in that I probably fast forwarded over,
Yeah.
maybe.
I think it's one of the less popular songs. Slice Your Pie or like Sticky Sweet or She Goes Down, like somewhere in there. But I think it's like the end of Slice Your Pie. It's just
Okay.
like it's like it's not the whole thing. It's just like kind of put it in there. You know,
Oh, I think
it's a
okay.
nice little
That's
nod.
cool.
You know, it's been a while since I've heard the song, so
I tell you what, have you ever listened to Julian Lennon, his
Oh yeah,
John's son? He's
yeah.
got some really good stuff. He sounds just like his dad too. He has a
sounds
song
like
called Want Your Body is the name of it. But it's a beautiful ballad with a title Want Your Body. So I was like, it just doesn't fit at all. But listen to that song, man. It's
I
really
will.
nice.
You know, they're all talented though. All the Beatles kids.
Yeah.
What's
But what
really
about
weird is
that
Paul
Yoko,
McCartney.
man? That's a
Oh, Yoko.
singing.
You know, their kid, Sean. Have you heard some Sean stuff?
No, I haven't.
He's done
But
stuff with the guy with Les from Primus. They have a project together. He's a couple different things. If you listen to his stuff, really great stuff.
oh, that's cool.
Very creative. And then Harrison's George Harrison's son also plays for Harrison's son plays Danny sings and plays guitar. Looks like his dad.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Paul McCartney has a son that you don't really hear about. Kind of looks like him.
Right.
He got shorter hair.
Right.
He doesn't say publicity.
No
He's
music.
not bad at all. He's just the songs
they all
are
play
good.
music. All the kids play music.
Yeah, a lot of them do.
They should get together, man.
they talk about all the kids getting together because all the kids have instruments. Ringo's kid plays.
Sons of
I think
Beatles.
Ringo's kid actually plays drums too.
Really, Sons of Beatles, man. That might work.
I think the pressure for that would be just too much for anybody.
Oh, you got to be kidding me! Yeah. Hey, man. You know, I mean, Julian Lennon.
Paycheck would be.
He's had a career of his own.
He's had the hardest of it because he didn't have. I don't think he had all that Beatles money. He kind of cut his own way through.
Yeah.
You know, I think when John, all those guys, all the rest of guys had some of that Beatles money. I think.
That's a lot of money.
I know. A lot of
especially for not touring. You know.
That really bothers you. You're like, God, if you can just sit in the studio for 5 years and create your best albums and not tour and be like the biggest songs on the planet and just have all number ones and be still rich, you'd be like, all right, I'm fine. They just couldn't. They couldn't play out. They're just too big.
Yeah.
And then they just weren't happy. And then the band was having issues too. So
that's crazy.
It is, and they actually renamed EMI Studios Abbey Road too. It was actually EMI Studios. It wasn't Abbey Road Studios.
Oh, really? Oh, I didn't know that. Good trivia.
Yeah.
And it's always a pleasure to speak to you, bud.
Yeah, me too, man.